Hello everyone, Cindy here with Monarch Mom DIY. On my channel, I bring you the best tips and tools for creating beautiful home decor on a budget. Over my past 2 years on YouTube, I have gained a lot of subscribers, so today's video is bringing you my top 12 Valentine home decor DIYs. Here we go. For project number 1, we're using one of these pennant signs from Dollar Tree, some stiff red felt, some flimsy red felt, some black and white checked gingham ribbon, some washi tape, and some chalk paint. So the first thing we're going to do is remove any glitter from the front of our sign. You can use sandpaper or a scraper for this. With my stiff red felt, I found a heart that I liked the size of to fit on the front of the pennant sign. And I just traced that on my stiff red felt and am cutting that out to use in just a little bit. Now with my flimsy red felt, or just regular felt, I'm going to trace and cut out about 30 to 40 circles, depending on the size circle that you use. The great thing about this is you do not have to be super precise when you cut out these circles. Just trace them on your felt and cut them out, and you will want to use at least 2 different size circles like you see me doing here. After giving my pennant sign a base coat of white chalk paint, I'm then going to use this washi tape. I liked the thickness of it, and I'm going to lay down stripes. So you'll see I started at the very top. I put another piece of tape right next to it. I'll put a third piece under that, and then I will remove that center piece. That is where our paint will go on this next step. So you're just going to continue that, going all the way down the sign, laying pieces of tape, and then pulling up the middle one to expose where the white chalk paint is. Once that tape is pressed down pretty firmly, I'm then going to take my mineral chalk paint, and all those spaces where there wasn't tape will now be gray. And when you pull up the tape, you've got the white and gray stripes. Now back to our felt circles. You saw I started on the outside, and I'm just cutting, kind of spiraling in and then rolling it back in on itself. You're going to create a little felt rosette and secure it with some hot glue. Go ahead and do this with all of your circles that you cut out, and then we will start arranging them on the red heart. Once you have all your rosettes ready to go, you can go ahead and hot glue the red heart onto the striped pennant. I think this looks cute even just left like that, but if you want to go the next step, now you're going to start arranging your little felt rosettes all around the heart and see how you will place them all in order to completely cover that base heart. I will say I believe I used about 30 of these to completely cover the heart, and then you can just start hot gluing those into place until you've got your heart completely covered. Here it is with all the little rosettes, and then I did take 2 more and just glue one to the top corner on each side. Now taking some of this black and white gingham ribbon, I believe this is from Hobby Lobby, we're just going to cut a piece that we can glue to the back as the hanger for our sign. Next, taking a few little pieces of this spider grass from Dollar Tree, or you could use little leaves if you have. I just wanted to add a little bit of green to the top 2 roses. I really liked how that love word was written on this Dollar General heart that I traced. So I went ahead and wrote it with a pencil, and then I'm going over it on my sign with a red paint marker from Elmer's. And here is how our first project turned out. I absolutely love it. Think it is so, so cute and modern. Next, we're going to make these buffalo check Valentine hearts. I'm using 2 of these, but you could use 2 of the blank hearts from Dollar Tree if you'd like. 1 of these mirrored love words, some rickrack, jute twine, and some chalk paint. So the first step after removing the ribbon hangers and the tags from our signs is we're going to give them both a nice coat of Waverly chalk paint in white. I decided just to go ahead and paint on the backs of these because there was so much glitter on the front. Now we're going to make stripes the same way we did in the first project, but this time we're going to start with vertical stripes, and I am using painter's tape for this. Sorry, couldn't think of the word. But you can see I pulled up the middle one, and then I'm doing 3 and pulling up the center one each time until you get all the way to the edges of your heart. Then with this light pink chalk paint, it's called Ballet Slipper, I'm going to go ahead then and paint the first set of stripes everywhere that there is not painter's tape. Once those stripes are done, go ahead and pull up those pieces of tape, but keep them. You will need them again in just a couple steps. Now, once those pink stripes are dry, we're going to use fresh tape, and now we're going to do our horizontal stripes, doing the exact same method, placing 3, pulling up the middle one, and going all the way down our heart shape. We are doing this to both of the hearts, by the way. I'm just showing you one on camera. Now I did mix a little bit of red with my pink paint just to make a slightly darker pink. And now you're going to paint the horizontal stripes that do not have tape with this darker pink. Now you are not going to remove those horizontal pieces of tape, but instead you are going to now put back the vertical pieces of tape wherever the white stripes were. So you're putting them back where these pieces of tape were the first time when we painted the light pink stripes. I hope that makes sense. So now we're going to have horizontal tape and vertical tape, and now we're using our crimson chalk paint, and we're going to paint all those little squares where there is no tape. And now is the final reveal. We pull up our vertical stripes of tape and now our horizontal, and this will reveal our red, pink, and white buffalo plaid pattern. So, so cute. Now I am going to take these 2 hearts that I've done this to, and I'm going to hot glue them, overlap them, cover up that little boo-boo place I had, and we're going to make this one larger sign with 2 hearts. Next, to outline the 2 individual hearts, I'm going to take this pink rickrack that I had on hand, but you can find this at any hobby store that has a sewing department, even Walmart, you can get this. I just wanted something to go around the edges to make each heart stand out. Then taking the mirrored love sign, I'm going to glue that in the center along with a heart on either side of the word love. Now you'll see in my final project that I do also take the rickrack down the center there behind the word love where the left heart outline is. Then I'm just going to finish it off by making a little jute string hanger, and our sign will be finished. You can use this buffalo check painting pattern on any project. It's really, really awesome, and I just love how these turned out. Next project, we're using 2 of these hard foam wreaths, some gray yarn, I do show red and pink felt, but instead I'm going to use these felt stickers from Dollar Tree. So you can find these usually in the springtime at Dollar Tree. I got my gray yarn, I believe at Hobby Lobby it was 99 cents, and I did use 2 packages for this project. Now you could paint the green wreath with gray or whatever color yarn you're going to use if you want. It would make you not have to be as precise with the yarn, but I chose not to do this. This wrapping of the yarn does take a little bit of time. This is a great project if you're sitting watching TV or something like that, but you're just going to keep wrapping the yarn all the way around your wreath, and I am making 2 of these. They will hang on some white shutters in my family room. So you will want to wrap, and then you'll see me here. I'll kind of slide it around to make sure it's as tight as possible. And then you'll attach the end of your piece with some hot glue. So once both of your wreaths are wrapped in yarn, I'm taking these felt stickers, and you can see I'm laying them out like this. The pink ones are pointing in and the red ones are pointing out. And I am removing the white heart and the jewel from the center. I'm just wanting the red and pink adhesive felt hearts. Once the pink hearts are all stuck down, I'll do the same to the red, and this is what you have next. Now I'm going to take that same gray yarn, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to wrap it, but a lot more loosely, so that we cross over each of the hearts as close to the middle as we can get. So here you can see what I'm doing. I kind of cross it and hold it there while I move the yarn over to the next heart. So we did basically top left to bottom right. Now we'll use another piece to cross the other way over each of our hearts, and this is what gives us our Argyle pattern. And once that yarn is secured with glue, the last step is just to hang this with a piece of ribbon. I have, like I said, 2 of those hanging from shutters. Our next project, we're using 2 of these tall love signs, some of these heart candy containers, a mason jar sign, the love grows here, window stickers, some bamboo skewers, and some chalk paint and ribbon. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our 2 love signs, and because I like the segmented, I don't know, the shiplap look on the front, it's not just a line drawn, it's actual crack in the sign. We are going to use the front of our signs after we sand and remove the metal hearts. Then flipping it over to the back, we're going to connect these 2 signs together by just gluing some of these large craft sticks across the back. Next, we're taking our mineral Waverly chalk paint. It's a nice light gray, and we are going to give this probably 2 coats to cover up those red letters completely. While that's drying, I'm taking 3 of these plastic heart candy containers, and because they're really shiny and clear, I'm going to give these a coat of our crimson chalk paint just so you can't see through them and they are a nice matte finish. So go ahead and give each of these halves a coat of this. Now, taking our mason jar hanging sign, we're going to remove the hanger, and then with my utility knife, we're going to score and remove the handle and the piece of straw at the top. We will also flip it over and remove any 3-dimensional pieces on the front so that when we attach it to our sign, it will lay flat. I want this to be not a mason jar glass, but just a jar for this sign. Now I ran out of that light pink paint, so I'm using some darker pink acrylic, and I'm going to mix a little bit of my white chalk paint with it to get a nice pale pink color for my jar for this project. You can see I'm just mixing them there on the sign and then evening it all out and making sure my jar is completely covered with this gorgeous light pink paint. While I'm painting, I just want to say thanks again for joining me. If you're new to my channel, I hope you'll consider sticking around by hitting that subscribe button and give this video a big thumbs up. Now with my pencil, I'm just kind of sketching out where the lines would be on a metal lid that would be on the top of a jar. And then we're going to carefully trace those pencil lines with a bead of hot glue, getting that hot glue as evenly spread out as possible. There it is, and we'll set that aside to dry. Going back to our sign, I'm just taking a black paint marker now and tracing it down the cracks that were already in our sign just to make that shiplap look stand out. For the center, I will just use a ruler since there is no crack there where the two signs came together. Now going back to our jar, which is dry, I'm taking a piece of heavy-duty aluminum foil and pressing it down and forming it around those hot glue lines. We're going to create a nice metal lid for our jar. So I'm going to trim away this little piece at the bottom with my utility knife. And then we'll use, you could use any kind of glue to glue that aluminum foil down. You could use some wood glue, or I'm going to use some Mod Podge. And then we'll set that aside to dry before we trim off the extra foil. Now I loved this saying, love grows here. And so I'm just kind of deciding what parts I'm going to trim off so that it will fit on my jar. Once I know where it's going to go, and I am going to use this metal heart from one of our love signs, I'm going to then peel off the window sticker and go ahead and adhere it to the front of my jar. This was sticky enough to the chalk paint that I did not go over it at all with any Mod Podge, but you definitely could do that if you wanted to make double sure that it wasn't going to come off. With the sticker there, and now that my foil is dry, I'm just flipping it over and trimming around it with my utility knife, and there's the lid for our jar. I wanted to give this more of a little rustic look, so using this brown shoe polish from Dollar Tree, I'm just going around the edges and smudging it up, then gluing this metal heart from one of our love signs we used to the front of our jar just to finish off the jar decorations. Now, this is what I'm doing with these candy containers. Now that they're painted red, I'm going to use them as flowers coming out of our jar. So using some spider grass as the stems, you can see some of them I'm having to cut in half because they're a little thick. I'm just placing these so that they're all at different lengths, and I did only use 5 of the halves. There are 5 in our family, so that's why I chose to do 5. So once those containers are glued down, then you can glue your jar on top of the ends and you'll get a really, really cute sign. I absolutely love how this turned out. The last thing it needed was just a ribbon hanger, which I just used the holes that were already in the sign. For project number 5, we're using some of these wood dowels, some floral foam, some mini terracotta pots from Dollar Tree, some floral moss, and then I printed out these letters. Just use any font you want. I did print them out onto cardstock because I'm going to use them as stencils. If you already have stencils, you can obviously skip this step. So I'm cutting them out and then using a piece of repurposed cardboard. I'm tracing them onto the cardboard and then cutting those out just because they're thicker and will be able to be the base for each of our moss covered letters for this project. Now taking some of this floral foam from Dollar Tree, I'm just going to cut one section off the end, and this one section is going to be enough to put a fourth of this in each of our little pots. Now I had already painted these white with some chalk paint and kind of roughened them up with some sandpaper, but here you can see now I'm taking 4 of these shorter, I believe they're like 6-inch wooden dowels from Crafter Square, and I wanted them to be white, so I'm just giving them one coat of my Waverly chalk paint. Once those are dry, I'm going to hot glue each dowel to the back of one of my cardboard letters that I cut out, and then we'll be ready to cover these with the floral moss. And now comes the fun, messy part of putting some hot glue on the front of the letter and pressing down some of this floral moss. You will want to use a tray for this because then you can just catch all the little pieces that you trim off so that you can see the letter. But I think this part's pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to glue the moss onto the front of each letter, then let it dry, come back and trim it, and then do moss on the back side so that our cardboard is completely covered up. While I'm putting the moss on and trimming it, I want to encourage each of you to hit that bell and make sure your notifications are set to all so that YouTube will be sure to notify you whenever I upload a new video. Once our letters are all covered and dried, you can see I'm poking a hole in the floral foam, filling it with hot glue, and then sticking the dowel back in just to make sure these stay in and don't wobble around. So we'll do that for all 4 of our letters and then just add a couple more finishing touches. Here's our LOVE. Now I'm going to take more of those pieces of floral moss, putting some hot glue in the pot, and just cover up the floral foam with a little bit more of the moss. Next, I'm going to take that same black and white checked ribbon and I'm going to tie 4 small bows, just making 2 loops, crossing them and tying them together, and then pulling it and adjusting it until it's the size and shape that I want. So I'm making one of those for each of my 4 pots. And then I'm also going to take that ribbon and just to give a little more decoration to the pot, I'm going to hot glue a piece of the ribbon going all the way around the rim of each pot. Then I'm just going to glue the bow a little bit under each of the 4 letters. And here's how our moss covered love turned out. Next project, I'm using one of these banks, some Valentine scrapbook paper, some Hershey Kisses, and some white sticker letters. So these banks you can find pretty much all the time. If you can't find one with white on the outside, you could always paint it. But here I'm just going to remove the backing, and these letters are on the inside of the bank. So just using one of these scrapers from the tool section of Dollar Tree, you can scrape all those letters off and then choose some Valentine paper to go onto the back of your bank. I went with this one because it had a variety of colors. I thought it was cute. So I'm just going to attach this with not hot glue. Let's use some Mod Podge. So spread that out evenly on the back of your bank and then attach your paper to that. Now you could use a paint marker that writes on glass, but I decided to use these white sticker letters that I had instead to spell out "Be Mine." Of course, if you have a vinyl cutting machine, you could use that as well. Once I have the "Be Mine" onto the front with my sticker letters, I'm going to trim the excess paper from the back of the bank, and then we'll get this thing put together. I love how simple and easy this DIY is. With just a few supplies, you can make something really cute, either as decoration or to give as a gift. Now, just taking a handful of these Hershey Kisses with the red, pink, and silver foil, we're going to just put some of those in the bottom of our bank and return the back, and then our project is finished. Like I said, something super cute for on the shelf or a gift for a friend. Project number 7, we're using 2 of these glittery foam hearts from Dollar Tree, some 2 different gingham ribbons, and these candlesticks that I had from a thrift store. They were this really dirty cream color, so the first thing I'm doing is giving these a coat of white chalk paint. Now, with one of my hearts, I'm going to take some red and black buffalo check ribbon and attaching it with hot glue. Then I am going to wrap it all the way around my foam heart until I have it completely covered. So this first heart is with red and black buffalo check ribbon, and the second one I'm going to do with white and black buffalo check ribbon. And so both of them done looks like this. Now these candlesticks had a little poker at the top that I could put this down on, but you could also use Jenga blocks to make them stay. This next project, I'm using a repurposed frame, one of these Happy Valentine's Day hearts from Dollar Tree, and some ribbon or rickrack. The first thing I want to do is distress my frame just by giving it a coat of Waverly chalk paint and then sanding some of it off so that it looks old and rustic. Next, taking this Happy Valentine's Day heart, we're going to remove the raised burlap banner on the middle part there, and then we're going to go ahead and paint our heart after sanding off where the glue was. You can see this heart kind of has the segmented sections like the love signs did, and so we want that all nice and smooth. And then I'm going to paint this 2 of the stripes with mineral chalk paint and the other 2 stripes with a light pink. I'm really liking the gray and pink and white for a softer, more romantic Valentine's decor, but I also like the big bright colors too. But for this project, I decided to do the gray and the light pink, and this is how our heart turned out. I did not put the banner back on. All I did is take another piece of that pink rickrack and put it through the 2 holes at the top, tie a knot, and then loop it over the top of the frame. And this is how our heart is going to hang in the center of the frame. And here's how it looks finished, just hanging inside that white frame. Next project, we're using 2 of these square signs with the raised hearts, some paint, and some of this black and white gingham scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby for 25 cents. First thing we're going to do is remove the heart and the little block that is raising the heart up from the center of each sign, peel away any excess paper, and then just using some of my white chalk paint, we're going to go ahead and paint that blue frame. It's a pretty color, but not what I wanted for this project. It's okay if you get some paint on the center because we're going to be covering that up with scrapbook paper anyway. So one of the hearts I wanted to be pink, and this acrylic paint is a little watery, so it did take a couple coats to cover over the design that was already on the heart. And then the other heart, we're going to use red chalk paint, which covers pretty well with one coat, so that one of our hearts will be pink and the other one will be red. While those hearts are drying, I'm taking one of these sheets of scrapbook paper and cutting 2 squares that are about 5 inches square. That's about the size of the inside of our boxes, and then you can see those fit in there really well. And then we're going to just use some of our Mod Podge, put it on the inside, and stick our paper down. So stick down that paper on both of your boxes. Now using a pencil, I'm going to do my best impersonation, I guess, of the Rae Dunn writing style. On the pink heart, I wrote hugs, and I'm going to go over that with a fine tip black paint marker. And then on the red heart, I'm going to write kisses and go over that with a white paint marker, just so it stands out a little bit better. You can see I did make those letters on my words a little bit thicker, and then reattaching the little block and hot gluing that to the center of our signs is going to be the last step in this project. Again, I love how easy and simple this is to make these signs for any holiday or seasonal occasion. For project number 10, we're using some of these burlap heart garlands from Dollar General, some floral foam and floral moss, some jute twine, some skewers, and I wanted a tin can for this, but I couldn't find one wide enough, but I did find this jar at Dollar Tree, so I'm going to mix black and mineral chalk paint to make kind of a darker gray, almost like a pewter gray to look like metal, and I'm going to paint my glass jar with this chalk paint. I want to make sure you guys know that I am also on Facebook as Monarch Mom DIY and on Instagram as Monarch Mom DIY as well. I've been posting previews over there on Instagram of my coming projects, so be sure to check that out if you're on Instagram. So these 2 felt garlands were, not felt, burlap, were 2 different designs, so I bought one of each. They were $2.50 and you got 5 hearts, so I thought it was a pretty good deal. I decided I was going to use the red and white check, the plain red, and the plain burlap. So removing those from the garland and saving the rest to use for another project, I'm going to then take 3 of these long skewers and open up the heart at the bottom just a tiny bit, enough to put some hot glue on the end of the skewer and hot glue that into the heart so that these will stand in our jar. Coming back to our jar, I did decide I wanted to just give it a little more of a rustic look by chippy painting some of this black chalk paint just to make it look a little more old and worn. Now cutting another piece of our floral foam, we're going to put this inside of our jar so that we can stick our hearts and some other florals inside. Now this foam is pretty malleable, so you can just kind of push the corners in and squish it so that you can fit it in whatever container you have. I would go ahead and put some hot glue though in the bottom so that it will stay in place. I decided I didn't like just the plain skewers, so just attaching a little piece of jute twine, I'm going to twirl my skewer while I wrap it with the jute twine. This really did not take very long, and I loved how it looked. With all three of those done, we are ready to assemble our floral arrangement. Putting a little bit more hot glue on top of our floral foam, we'll then cover up that floral foam with a little bit more of this moss. This is the reindeer moss. I really, really love it. I always have a couple bags on hand. So we've got our hearts here. I did want to make one of them a little shorter so they would be different lengths. Actually, it looks like I made two of them a little shorter. And now we will arrange everything in our jar. So I've got some of these spring florals, some greenery from Walmart, and of course our hearts. So starting with the tallest one, I'm going to put that in the jar, and then our other two hearts there. Now we just fill in the space however you want with greenery, with some white flowers, and this project will be good to go. I did want one more decorative touch around the jar. So this burlap ribbon that has that white lace around it, I decided I just wanted the lace. So I know you can buy lace by itself, but I didn't have any. So this is what I did with what I had on hand. I'm just going to take it and wrap it around the edge of my jar there, tie a knot, and then it's just going to hang down in the front. I really love how this arrangement turned out using just a few supplies and your imagination. Okay, two more projects I'm using for project 11, one of these long signs, some burlap ribbon, some gingham ribbon, a few berries and florals. And first of all, we're going to paint this with our crimson Waverly chalk paint. It might have taken 2 coats just to cover up those words, but these signs are really awesome and thick and great quality. Now I'm writing the word love here with a pencil. I'm kind of freehanding it and making my O in the shape of a heart. So the great thing about this chalk paint too is you can write on it with pencil, and when you erase mistakes, it doesn't damage the paint. So now I'm going to go over this with one of my white paint markers, and then we will move on to decorating our little wood sign. So here I'm taking some of my leftover berries from Christmas time and also some white baby's breath. I'm going to just hot glue them to the front of my sign, and it's okay because we're going to cover up where they're glued on with some ribbon, so you don't have to worry about how it looks necessarily. So just use some florals, whatever you'd like, then take some of your black and white ribbon or fabric and tie it around here in a knot to cover up where the hot glue is. Lastly, I'm taking a black marker and just coloring in that heart in the center of our O, just to also bring in the black from the ribbon as well. This is another project that was just super simple and easy to make and is a great addition to your decor. Lastly, I'm making 2 porch pots for my front porch using these big pots, 2 of these felt hearts, some plant stakes, some black foam board and some ribbon and some glittery heart picks. So I'm going to show one on camera, but remember I'm doing 2 of these, tracing out the heart on our black foam board. We're going to cut that out and then hot glue it. I just loved how it made this more sturdy, and also you can really see the detailing in the swirls and hearts in the red felt heart. So go ahead and hot glue that wherever it's not going to show through, and you'll be ready for the next step. I also got a package of these glitter hearts from Dollar Tree. They're like a poster board but glittery and come in a few different sizes. I wanted a pink heart for the center, and this is the size I decided on, so just hot glue that to the center. Now I will say that I did use 4 foam blocks for this project, 2 for each pot. This one you can see I cut in half across the short way, and we're going to glue these into the bottom of our pot to hold our plant stake. Now flipping our heart over, we're going to go ahead and attach the plant stake to the back of our heart. And to do this, I'm just going to use some packing tape from Dollar Tree, and you won't see the back anyway, so this is just fine. Now poke that down into the foam, and then I crumpled up some balls of an old magazine or a catalog just to fill in some space. And then your second floral foam block, you're going to cut in half the long way. You can see I'm doing here. And we're going to lay these inside the pot now on either side of the plant stake. Taking some more of our floral moss, we're just going to apply some hot glue very liberally and then cover all of that up with floral moss. Now these heart picks I did get at Walmart. They were 98 cents, and I just liked that they had a wood stick rather than plastic, but you can use the ones from Dollar Tree just fine. I got way more than I was going to need, and here I'm dividing them up so that I can have enough for both of my porch pots. Once I have those divided up, now I will just start arranging them in the floral moss, poking a hole, attaching some hot glue, sticking it back in, and I just kind of made a heart garden here with the red, pink, and white hearts. I just love these 2 that they each had a little ribbon bow tied around them. Now I remembered I had these battery powered fairy lights. These are stars, but you can use any, even the ones from Dollar Tree. I decided I wanted to arrange them around all these hearts just for an added touch if I decided I wanted to light them up on my porch in the evening. So laying all the stars in there, then you've got your battery pack, and these are actually ones I got from Amazon. They do lots of different things with the lights. The last step is I'm going to take some of this red sheer ribbon from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to tie a knot around my pot just for one little added touch. You do want to attach the ribbon with a little bit of hot glue so it doesn't slide down, and then you can also dovetail your ends. I was going to possibly do a bow, but I decided I liked it better just with the knot and the 2 ends. And here's how the finished porch pot turned out. Again, I have 2 of these that will go on either side of my front door. Thanks so much again, you guys, for joining me for this video. Please let me know in the comments which of these projects was your favorite, what you may consider making this year for Valentine's Day, either as a gift or for decor for your home. Again, I hope you'll give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it and want to see more like it. And now I want to give you just a reminder of the 12 projects that we saw today. Thanks so much, guys, and I will definitely see you again next time. Take care. Bye.